Welcome to the Expansive CEO podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Chapman, founder of Expansive CEO and X Squared Wealth Planning. Buckle in as we explore how to create true prosperity and build a business and a life that expands beyond yourself and makes a dent in the universe. Welcome, everyone, to this episode of the Expansive CEO podcast. Today, I have an interview with someone who I have met recently. A few times we've gotten to actually have some really awesome conversations, and I'm so excited to have her here on the podcast with me. Her name is Stephanie Trager, and she is a bridge between worlds and a guide to the wayfinders at the bow of our ship. And so, of course, we are talking about those entrepreneurs, right, who are the tip of the spear, who are changing the world. And Stephanie is really a guide to those amazing, magnificent people. So, Stephanie, thank you so much for being here on the podcast. I would love for you to tell us more about who you are and what does that mean? What does that mean that you're a bridge between worlds? And once people hear what you have to say, they're going to be like, "Oh yeah, obviously, that's true." But yeah, tell us more.
Mm.
What does that mean?
Thank you. It's lovely to be with you, Hannah. I know we're in store for a really juicy deep dive. So everybody buckle up. Um, yes, I feel very resonant with this bridge right now that we're all like everything to me is a bridge.
Mm.
We're standing at the precipice of a bridge between our future. We are standing at on one side of a bridge from the ancient past, and then that bridge is really the invitation for how do we leverage and access the intelligence of our ancient past and help us access it for our not so distant future. So the bridge is also multidimensional, that multidimensional bridge that allows myself and others to access the linear and non-linear realms
Mhm.
of the time.
Yeah. So today we are talking about projections. And so I want to like I love the fact that this has so many different meanings as well because like in the financial world when we talk about projections, we're talking about okay, what are your finances going to look like
Yeah.
in 3 months or 6 months or 12 months, right? Like
Mhm.
literal talking projections. Um but when we were talking about with other humans, that takes on a very different meaning. And what are the projections that we are either accepting as reality, or where are we like
Mhm.
being projected upon or projecting upon others and creating stories that aren't necessarily true?
Yeah.
So yeah, you've been writing about this and doing some deep dive on that. And so tell me, yeah, what's going on? How do you feel?
Yeah. Well, it is a moment where we're in projection soup, you know. And I mean, since the beginning of time, that's how reality is created, right? Various worldviews are dancing through their experience in life, and the more complex we evolve, this world of complexity that we evolve into, it just I'm noticing right now projections shooting out from everywhere, right? And I love this play on words because financial projections. I work with, earth energies, and so the spaces I'm holding are always connected to earth in some way, the earth energies. So the earth quarters, really working with earth quarters instead of tax quarters, and like being aware of how the word like the projection of this reality through vocabulary is
Mhm.
so interesting to me. Like that the psyche of words and sound word magic. Words are casting spells all the time. And so these projections that someone might share, like I'm projecting right now, I'm projecting my truth. Take it or leave it,
Mhm.
right? Everything is a projection in one way or another. And so how we're receiving it right now is what I'm interested in. I see a lot of people who are very worried, and we live in this totally uncertain world, and there's a lot of volatility and uncertainty and ambiguity, right? That VUCA world, and how I'm seeing it people respond. That's why I'm interested in this. It's like, wait a minute, how do we walk with protection, be really in harmony with the highest energies right now so that we're not taking on other people's or the collective projection.
Mhm. That's such a good, analog really to, again, if we like, what was coming up for me as you were talking was thinking about the financial volatility that we're experiencing as well. It's the stock market in the US has been really, really up and down, and I have clients who have different experiences of that as well, and so that's also a projection. If,
Yeah.
things are if the stock market is falling and your fear is like, "Oh my gosh, like, what's happening? I'm gonna lose
Mhm.
everything." I'm, like, just feeling that, like, terror of free fall.
Yeah.
That's your projection upon that, what's basically just data,
Yeah. Yeah.
versus someone else who might see that and be like, "Oh, okay, well, what do I need to buy right now?"
Yeah.
Things are on sale. Like, there's a fire sale on Nvidia, whatever it is. I'm gonna go put money into that and see their projection is opportunity
Yeah.
on that exact same scenario.
Yeah. So I see that as also a meaning making lens, right? It's whatever the meaning you're making of what's happening out there is your springboard to like project your reality upon it. And let's like bring that down to earth, the collective. So I was thinking about this in terms of five categories or five examples. It was yesterday. I literally was like, game on. This projection thing was so activated. I was seeing it everywhere and just being in my own observation, like being the observer, and then it's like, okay, where am I projecting? and, um, and then so I saw this a few times yesterday where I said, "Wow, 5 times," and I was just writing this out, and it's like the influencer. So I'm gonna share with you five examples just in one day where I saw major projections that could have actually a big impact, a really, really big impact. And so why do we need to pay attention to projections, and then how do we actually navigate them as the warrior, as the um, sovereign mind, basically, so that we can make our own meaning of this world and create our own reality and our own future.
Mm, beautiful.
Yeah. So the one place I saw was, and I was saying this to you a little earlier about a spiritual entrepreneur, an influencer with quite a big following, and teaching a lot of really amazing content, and just a beautiful human. And there was a comment that was made about, um, and again, this is not making anyone wrong. It was just an awareness. It was a comment made around doing a live event, and if you're not creating, and there was no explanation about the type of event. It was like, if you're not creating a $500,000 from every live event, you are doing something wrong. Well, is that true? Maybe for some people it's true, and maybe for some people it's not true. So that's enough for a vulnerable person to like feel like a failure or not enoughness or all of those things, right? Oh, come on, get your thick skin on, be an entrepreneur, right? But it's these little hinges swing big doors, these
Yep.
little infractions, to ourself, to our, we don't know where people are at right now. We're in a vulnerable time. Everyone is going through some big changes, It's not always bad necessarily or challenging, but there's a lot of tectonic shifts happening right now on this planet. And us sensitive humans are feeling it, right? So that moment where you're like, huh, and you feel something emotionally trigger, pause and ask, is this true? And and you realize, like, is there an agenda behind this? Is this a positioning? It doesn't mean there was an intentional, you know, malicious intent. It is like literally, or it could literally be someone else's truth, and they care so much they want to share it with you. Does not mean it's true. If that you get that feeling in your gut where you feel like a failure, then it's like discern and move on. Another example of an influencer, also, it felt like a spell was cast with her words. Very beautiful, poetic person. And there was something that came out of her in her message where it was like, wow, that has a possibility to actually really uh have, like, the unintended consequences, right? And so, again, it's not necessarily bad intention, though for her, it might be true, and she's wanting to share this with everybody, and that's beautiful. So it's just being really mindful that nobody is wrong for projecting, though it's our responsibility to discern and have a
Mm,
sovereign mind and make our own meaning and know what our truth is, you know? Another thing, like politics right now, American politics right now, enough said, right? But like projections spewing all over the place and then being like spewed all over the place. So being mindful of what is true for you is so important. The biggest, I'd say the biggest example in sort of the more collective sphere is the projection that the metaverse is happening, AI is taking over the world, and there's nothing you can do about it.
mm,
Like this, like this dystopian reality. Like that is one person's world, like one worldview that is being adopted and colluded and whatever. It's not the only future. It's not the future I see necessarily, right? So being mindful whenever you hear a we're going there and there's nothing you can do about it, mindful.
yeah.
That's one worldview. And the fifth one was really interesting. I was reading an article about the it came from my university. I went to Boston University and got the magazine in the mail, and the cover of it is the chief of space operations for U.S. Space Force. And this General Chance Saltzman, and he was talking about the mission of Space Force, which was established in 2019, and the mission, the three-pronged mission of this force is to maintain access to outer space, to exploit and that domain for U.S. interests, and to control that domain if contested by an adversary. And it's like, wow, okay, that's your worldview of projected onto the world, onto all that you have dominion over. So it does not include, how are we going to interact with ETs and, you know, the cosmic intelligence that many of us rely on, the spiritual energy of what, the cosmic space portal means for all of us, for other people. So it was really interesting. And like the consciousness aspect of it, the ethics aspect of it, it's like that is a projection of this is how it is, and this is what we're doing. And
Right.
and so I'll pause there, but that was just my five interesting examples of projection.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think anyone, and that might be an invitation too for everyone else to like pause and notice, like, what are you noticing as is someone projecting when you stop and actually think about it, right? Like, so like
Yeah.
just look at your social media feed or just listen to, whatever podcast you're listening to. And where are you projecting? The one that jumped out at me, two of them, really that jumped out at me. The first one was, in the political landscape right now, this
Yeah.
sense of if you support either, right? It doesn't matter. Like if you support this side, you are this kind of person. If you support this thing, you are this kind of person.
Yeah.
Right? That is pure projection.
Yeah.
And that's it can be especially the climate that we're in right now. And we're recording this on August 15th. It'll be released, in September. So we'll still be in this political climate in the US. The emotional impact, that was the other thing you said, like the emotional impact of that projection. If you support X, you
Mhm.
are a bad person. If you support Y, don't care about anyone else. Like you only, that can
Yeah.
feel emotionally triggering, that you
Yeah.
wanna defend yourself, that you would like you said, like, what's your emotional reaction to this thing? And if you're feeling like, "That's not me, I have to defend myself against this."
Mhm.
That's that is a, like, bright waving flag that that is that person's projection.
Mhm.
It is
Or a collective, right, projection.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly, and that is not reflecting a universal truth. And so that looking at that from that lens, the other one, talking about, if you're not making $500,000 from every live launch, you're doing something wrong, right? Again, that is not a universal truth.
No.
It,
No. Yeah.
it's speaking to someone's individual experience and then trying to universalize that rather than taking a universal truth and helping individuals create their own experience of that universal truth,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. Um, and so that went from, this lens of what we typically talk about here on the podcast is like, okay, well, how do you then do that? If I hear that, or if I'm sucked in by, someone's messaging that's saying, I should be making, six figures from every launch or $500,000 from every launch. And then I feel like, well, I didn't do that with my last launch. Like, oh my gosh, I must be a failure. How do I do it? How do I do more? How do I do it like you? There, I think what we're starting to see, especially in the coaching arena, is like this veil lifting so that we can start to see, oh, okay, well, that worked for you because you have this particular system in place. And you actually have a very, unique gift for speaking from your heart or like whatever it is, like there is a system in place and there's a special gift that that person has that makes that work. Where, okay.
Well, I would say something though a lot of statements like that are made at some juncture in someone's journey, right? And that wasn't the same. They wouldn't have had that belief per se, like many years ago, where that wasn't the stage of their business, for example. And so not everybody actually wants to have that kind of business.
Mhm,
Maybe it's, maybe it was for the impact that you had the event, or maybe there was less people, whatever the scenario is. It's it's often in this coaching industry right now. And yeah, I've been in this journey for like 20 years in coaching and watching this whole emergence of influencer, um, the creating, like, so think about the world we live in, all of the systems, the matrix. It's all made up. Money is made up. The whole thing is made up. So it's all a projection. And we're
mhm,
colluding with it. We're, adding to it. We're co-creating with it. We're iterating it. So it's not like projections are always bad or good, right? We also project a vision of our future. And we project, financial goals. So it's not to say it's good or bad. It's to say, what is the effect on me, and how is this changing or affecting my behavior? And if that behavioral piece is around silencing yourself, if that behavioral piece is around self-censorship, around berating yourself, around activating some feeling of not enoughness or a trigger of a failure, is it true? Is it really true? And so that's kind of the message here, is being so so clear in who you are, you know. I'll share the five sort of, well, how do you navigate this, and then we can play with some of this as well, is really keeping a sovereign mind. And what does that
mhm,
mean? It's like doing that deep excavation of how much are my choices, how much of the choices that do I make, how are they influenced by other people doing this
mhm,
because this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what, like, I feel pressured into, or what the program is, or what you're supposed to do at this juncture in your life, or how many supposed tos are there in there, or shoulds. And if there's that feeling of constraint or inauthenticity on any level, then examine that, because what is a sovereign mind to you? It's like, do your research, do your own fact checking. Like, and the fact check might just be tuning into your solar plexus. Like, how is this landing for me? That's
mhm,
plausible. I hear things, I'm like, that's plausible. Let me have a look. Or I'm like, yep, that's true for me. Cause I know you feel it. So when you keep that sovereign mind, and then the second one is know yourself deeper. When you know yourself deeper, you know that feeling of truth. You just know it, and then if it's not true too. And it might mean you need to do some research, it might not, but it's that deep gnosis of self and self awareness. And then the third one is exercising discernment. It's okay. There's judgment like, "Oh, that's what you think." Then there's also discernment is like really taking it in and is this true? Is there emotional is there some kind of manipulation or an agenda? And discerning where is this what's the come from of that message I'm hearing?
Mhm,
The fourth one is taking stock of where you're projecting, being in the observer and just noticing for a day how the words come out of your mouth and the projections and is there any emotional displacement to avoid feeling something or is there like a need to be right and exert your truth? So taking stock of your own projections hones your ability to see when you're being projected on. And then the last one is, of course, having a sounding board. Someone
mhm.
that can call you out on your own projections and how they're not if they're not serving you, and someone who can also, like, hold that space for you to refine, your truth.
Oh, yes, so good. Uh, as you were telling, though, putting those together, another example came to mind for me of someone I'm working with right now on human design, going through her elements of her human design, knowing herself more deeply,
Mm,
and, like, it was, like, such an exact example of what you just said of she was working with a coach to sell a particular thing, and they're like, "You have to do it this way. You have to DM people, you have to do cold outreach, you have to do
mm,
this so many times per day." And she said, like, it felt bad in my body. Like,
mm,
it literally it would be exhausting. And like, every time I'm like gearing myself up to do this, my body feels bad
yeah.
doing that. And that's not the way that she is designed to
Mm,
connect with people. She's a projector in human design and is, like, meant to respond to invitations from people. She's meant
mm.
to, I love this word, right? She's a projector in human design. She's meant to project. She's meant to project what's true for her, what matters to her heart, and
Mm,
put it out there for other people, and this is a good, example of what you're talking about as well, for other people to then discern, be like, "Oh, yes, that resonates with me. I want to learn more about that."
mhm.
And that's how her energy is meant to work.
Yeah, I would love to hear what are some of the, uh, qualities of a projector in
Yeah, so
design?
yeah, projectors in human design do not have, their sacral chakra defined. And
Mhm,
so the sacral chakra is, what makes someone a generator or a manifesting generator. And I'm a manifesting generator myself. And that sacral chakra is life force energy. We have consistent and constant access to that life force energy. And so we typically are the ones that people are like, I don't even know how you're doing all the things. How do you keep up with all that? And if we are in so for me, if I am doing something that I enjoy, if my energy is like a hell yes for whatever I'm
mhm,
doing, it just flows. I don't know how I'm doing all of it. It's just it's easy. I can
mm,
if I am lit up for it.
yeah,
If it's something that I am not lit up for, it will drain that sacral energy like nothing else and lead to burnout. But a projector does not have that defined sacral energy. And so what that means is that their energy will ebb and flow a lot more, and they have to be really discerning about what they give that energy to.
mhm,
And so that's where for a projector, their signatures are success or bitterness. So when they're aligned, when things are working, when people are inviting them to share more about what they do, and they're like, "Oh, this is so great. It's so easy. I love it." That's the success. And
mhm,
then when it's not working, when they're trying to force it, when they're, in this example, like sending out cold DMs to try and sell something that they don't that's like, "This doesn't feel good," it leads to bitterness.
mhm,
That other side is so they'll feel bitter. They'll feel like nobody wants to hear what I have to say. Nobody cares about what I'm
mm,
doing, and I feel resentful and
yeah,
bitter about what's going on.
mm,
And so those 2 pieces like that's where we know, like, are you feeling that resentment? Are you feeling bitterness? That is such a big waving flag that, hey, something's out of alignment. Something you're
Mm.
not utilizing your energy in the way that is right for you, and
Mhm.
it's causing that bitterness, it's causing that resentment. So let's look at that. Let's see if we can refine that for you.
Yeah.
Um, but the projectorness of it, that's exactly what we're meant. And to your point of projections aren't bad.
Yeah.
It's not a good or bad thing. This is a discernment thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're all projecting, right? Especially if you are marketing at all. Marketing is a projection, So
Right.
it's not really a judgment on that. Thank you for sharing all of those pieces. It's really this speaking to the state of, I would say, humanity, but people in the modern world who are there's so much noise right
Mhm.
now. And there's so much change happening so fast and a lot of uncertainty. And people are questioning their purpose and questioning their relationships and their location and their this and their that. And it's right. There's this earthquaking underneath of us in a big way. And I think
Mhm.
it's in these times where it's refining your skills and honing your tools, especially if you're in this online world or you're in industries that are anything goes, anything
Mhm.
goes. So, yeah.
Yeah, that the piece about, again, like, knowing yourself deeply, being able to tune in, I think
Yeah.
that's the that's the place where we can really rise above the noise,
Mhm.
right? And so that's, like, tap into that. The more you know yourself, the more you understand your own energy, the more you understand, your own emotional response to things, right? Like, that's where, okay, something is coming at me. This is what I'm feeling. Is this true or not true for me? Right. And I can let it go. Like, I don't have to
Yeah.
engage.
Yeah.
I actually had that experience recently being around, around a group of people who have different political opinions from me. Um, and we're talking about a certain scenario that was like, oh, I don't think they have the right information, there, but they were making judgments about, um, a recent event, and like, tapped in, and I was like, "That doesn't affect me whatsoever."
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to engage with that. I
Yeah.
don't feel any need to defend anything,
I
and
think that's
I can just
important.
be calm.
Yeah, that's a key piece is in this time of division and derision and uh all of the energy and mudslinging that again, like this projection piece, it's like it's not about making others wrong. If you can walk through this world and know thyself, know your truth, and know when it's important to share your truth in moments like that, where it's like, will I be contributing value by speaking? And how can I share my truth without making others wrong? Then we're moving in the right direction. Because it's the acknowledgement that, wow, if I believed what you believed, you'd be right, but I don't believe that. So that's not true for me. And if it could be that simple, I know it's a little when the stakes are higher, it's a little harder to to embrace and embody that. But I work with the earth energies. I was saying this before is like my practices or the shamanic practices. I bring this into my work, and we just it's holding that space of the bridge. And what's beautiful is the idea of walking with protection is a big part of how we navigate the world of chaos, right? And then do it in that calm, collected, grounded, centered place and knowing our truth. And so walking with protection, people will be like, "Oh, like put your protection up and have your stones and all your things and your feathers." And yet, yes, and maybe not, right? Walking with protection is merely being in harmony. It's
Mhm,
harmony. And we don't when we're in harmony, we don't need protection. Like we are in harmony and we will be attracting that is which is harmonious. And when you feel the projection coming and it's not aligned, it's like it's like you don't even have to engage. not going to really enter. And but the truth is it does. We're human and we are here with a various, emotional this array of emotions. And yeah, things enter. So the piece of discernment is like when that thing enters, if you feel it starting to activate that self-judgment or self emotion or that vulnerable place or that anger or whatever it is that it's feel it. You feel it and then be like, "Oh, is that true? No, it's not true for me." Okay. And then choose like you said, not engaging. So, it does not mean you're not a warrior if you feel it. The thing is actually, yeah, you feel it. That's how you know. That's when you discern
Yes. It's information.
into information.
It's all information.
Totally. Love that.
Yeah, I have another client who is a manifestor in human design and anger. The signatures for manifestors are peace and anger. And so that, there's in society in general, right? We tend to demonize anger in a lot of ways. And for her, it's, oh, this is telling me something.
Yeah.
It's information. It doesn't mean I lash out at people. Doesn't mean I'm an angry person. It's just information that I'm being given about something in my world that is misaligned.
Yeah.
And that's all it has to be. It doesn't have to be anything more than that.
Yeah.
Um, and then you can adjust accordingly. Use your discernment, right? You tap
Mhm.
in. Um, so
Yep.
it's beautiful, beautiful. We could talk about this for another hour easily. But in order to make sure that we have time for you to talk more about, what are you up to right now? What's coming up soon? How can people get a hold of you if they
Mm.
listen to our conversation and they're like, I just need to know more about you and what you do? How can people reach you?
Mm. Thank you, Hannah. StephanieTrager.com and StephanieTrager. StephanieTrager.com. It's kind of all there. And yeah, the I'd say the invitation is there's a free masterclass actually on that page, or actually it's not on the page. It's a forward slash StephanieTrager.com forward slash liberation dash
Mm.
2030. And I'll share that link with you. But this is a cool masterclass I did once where it's not once, it's a process that I use with people all the time and just in speaking, and it's a game changer if you really embrace this. It's about deprogramming, and part so much of this projection piece is around programming, right? Like we are programmed creators, and when we want to step out of the program, there's these traps, these pieces of our identity that pull us back. So much of this projection piece is about identity. It's about um, it. How do we step out of the program to be become our quantum creators, like really lean into higher purpose. And so that's what that master, it's called liberation, owning your power as a creator.
Mm.
And yeah, I mean, this piece about projections, I love how it links back to everything, right? It's like owning your power as a creator, as a projector. What do we want with this one opportunity we get to project into the world? What do you want it to be? Or do you want to be colluding with somebody else's projection that is not even aligned with you?
Mm. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like I said, we could just keep going forever.
Mm,
It's so, I love this, how it dovetailed so perfectly into, yeah. How do you create? Right. Cause we are all projecting. We are literally like, if you think of the other, um, definitions of the word, right? Literally projecting your voice, right?
yeah,
That it's important. It's important for us to create our projections
yeah.
and to, be clear channels for like to know the more you know yourself, the more you are in tune with, you know, your internal truth and your internal compass, then you can project the truth of who you are.
Mhm.
And the more on the other side, right? So even like you and me across the screen from each other, the more I can project what's the deepest truth of me, you can see that and then choose if that's what you want to engage with or not. Right? So then
Yeah.
we're getting more authentic engagement, more authentic co-creation. And
Yeah.
even this podcast being literally an example of that. If we want, like, what's the tangible out this
Yeah.
this
Flow.
conversation, right?
No,
Yeah.
So while you're saying that, what comes to me is the piece around, the come from. You know, it's if the come from in whatever the truth you're projecting is, or spell you're casting, because words are spells, the come from, if the come from is pure and really like coming from a good place, doesn't always mean it's going to land in the best place, though it's generative, right? And there are some people who this is going to help, but this is like, that's where the discernment comes in. It's like, oh no, you're wrong. It's not about making others wrong, right? But it's easier to discern, I'd say, when there's a pure come from, because you're like, oh, I
Mhm.
don't agree with that. You know, it's easier.
Right.
When it's more of a, like, narrative, a bigger global narrative of
Mhm.
a projection, it's a little harder because, well, that's also projection. That's it's all relative, but it's more like you really have to know what your truth is, because, you know, the it's harder to see the come from. Not for me, maybe not for you, because this is my life's work is around studying come froms. But, you know, it's always when the come from is part of a bigger agenda, or, you know, that's, I don't know if any of this is making sense, but that is, uh, maybe I'm canceling out what I'm saying as I'm projecting it. So
No, I am following 100%.
yeah.
It's that sense of, I'm gonna tell a quick story because we still have a couple minutes here. When I was in 7th grade, I had a
Mm,
teacher that said, "Every agenda has a hidden agenda."
mm, true, true.
Right, and that was literally 7th grade, and I was like, "I don't really know what that means," but I have never forgot that, and that was, oh my gosh, I mean, like, uh, almost 30 years ago at this point.
Good teacher.
Right? Yeah, and so that, like, thinking about that, like, every agenda has a hidden agenda. It's that what's okay, what's this projection saying? What does it want me to believe? What's the agenda underneath that? And
Yeah.
that's the come from that you're talking about, right? And so, okay, this person is saying they believe this particular thing, but what are they doing with that information? What do they want
Yeah.
you to do with that information? And there's an agenda underneath that.
Yeah.
Um, and so being able to discern, right? I think that's what you're getting at, that where is this coming from? What's the hidden agenda? What are they trying to get me to do with this information?
Mhm.
That's going to help you dismantle the projection or see more clearly, you know, they're waving over here when really, the thing is over here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's so many layers of that, right? There's like, what is their agenda, and then like the hidden agenda under the agenda. Sometimes people don't even realize it. That's where, like, if it's and we're talking about different things, right? In the bigger landscape of the collective narrative, there's, you know, people might believe so wholeheartedly believe in the work that they're doing, even though it's very tied to an agenda. And then underneath that is a bigger agenda that they might not even be aware of.
Mhm,
And the same thing with us individually when you're in a relationship, or you're, you know, you're communicating and you're projecting, you know, your belief about the world or your belief about something onto somebody else, so that you don't feel, you know, you're deflecting so that you don't have to feel it. There's that, the agenda to deflect, which you're probably, it's unconscious, right? And
mhm,
then underneath that is, or like you might be thinking it's, no, I'm here to solve this problem. I want to solve this issue we're having. So I'm saying this. But underneath that is the subconscious or unconscious fear of feeling that feeling so much that you project it.
mm,
So yeah,
mm,
like we're doing
yeah.
the dance here.
I know, I know. Yeah, no, I'm like, oh my gosh, that feeling of I'm doing this action to solve this problem.
Yeah.
That's such a good one. I'm doing this so that, whatever it is, solve a problem. When the hidden agenda for you personally is I actually don't want this person to be upset with me. I don't want to feel conflict. I don't want to be in conflict with this person, so I am doing this thing to solve this problem. So that's the agenda. I'm going to take care of this issue. I'm going to do the dishes so my spouse isn't upset with me. I'm going to do the dishes so that they're done, but the underlying is so that my spouse isn't upset with me. Right? Like
Well, and then
that kind
the underlying that is so that I don't have to feel how uncomfortable it would be to assert my boundaries and to stand in my power
of mhm,
because of some, imprint or wound from whenever, right?
right.
Like the subconscious. Yeah.
Yes. So, what I'm gathering here, now we do have to wrap up,
Yeah.
is that we could talk about projections a million ways. So, if you are listening and you're like, "Oh, okay, this brought up this for me," tell us. I would love literally, I would love to
Yeah.
hear.
Curious.
I say it every time, but I'm like I love it when people like reach back out and like, "This is what this made me think of," or,
Mhm.
it made me reach out to this person and, you know, talk about, this. So if this is like sparking conversation or sparking any thoughts around what you're projecting or what you're noticing as projections around you, we'd love to hear it. Absolutely love to hear it. So you can always reach me at Hannah, HANNAH, at expansiveceo.com with any of your thoughts or questions. You can reach Stephanie, and all of her contact information will be below for you to reach her as well, both for her website and for the free masterclass that she has on her website. So you can go down below and find that information. Um, and if you have any questions or if you want to hear more, would love to hear about it. Would, reach out anytime. So, Stephanie, thank you so much for being here today. It was such a beautiful, fun, interesting conversation. And yeah, I hope this again, like the intention we said at the beginning, that this goes out and the people who are meant to hear it
Mm.
get to hear it and get to integrate this, all of the beautiful words that we shared and said. And as you keep repeating that our words matter, the way that we speak, the words that we cast, the spells that we cast with our words, right? Like this is very, very important. So thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for being
Thank
here with me.
you. Thank you, Hannah. I just want to say one thing about this projections. The purpose of this conversation is really about cr- like go forth and project the most amazing possible world of the highest frequency and the most sacred order. That's the purpose.
I love it. Thank you so much, Stephanie. And
Yeah.
thank
Thank you.
you for everyone who listened. We will catch you next time. That's it for this episode. Thanks for listening and be sure to like and subscribe. And again, if anything resonated with you from this episode, I would love to hear from you. Email me at Hannah, HANNAH, at expansiveceo.com and tell me about it. And if you're ready for your greatest expansion, you can find ways to work with me at expansiveceo.com and at x2wealthplanning.com. That's X, the numeral 2, wealthplanning.com. So until next time, remember that there is enough, you are enough, and your birthright in this lifetime is to be expansive.